Hello, my name is Tim from Signage Live and welcome to Digital Signage Explored. My aim with this show is to educate and inspire you as we delve through different subjects that cover a wide variety of digital signage topics, including interviews with industry experts, digital signage users, and thought leaders as well. As today, we're going to start the show on a subject very close to us, which is workplace recognition. If you're a solutions architect, a marketing manager, a CEO, or anyone in the business that's responsible for communicating with your workforce, this episode should be right up your street. So in a Gallup study, around 65% of Americans don't feel that they receive adequate recognition of their achievements. At the end of the day, we're all human, and with that we thrive on recognition, so much so to the point that it's enough of a pain point to drive us to move away from those places that we aren't recognized, and actually incentivizes us to look for new horizons. So this study may have been talking only about the US industry, but 65% is a big enough number for us to consider this as a serious issue at a global scale. From a business perspective, the concept of increasing employee churn should ring alarm bells. In another Gallup study, actually, it stated that it costs on average between 6 to 9 months of an employee's salary to replace them after they've left. So if you consider things like training, onboarding, new software and hardware costs, the disruption to your customer experience and so on, you can kind of see how quickly that adds up to a huge loss of time for your business that could be spent on growing rather than starting from zero with a new employee. So obviously recognition isn't the only reason people move on from a business, but investing in your people will help you to grow as an organization, especially as you can then invest more time upskilling existing employees to become even more valuable of an asset to you and your company. So it's kind of a win-win situation. I actually spent the last year going back to a lot of our existing customers, some of which I onboarded back at the beginning of my time at Signage Live, and I've been bothering them with questions for case studies and feedback, and it's clear that the theme comes from those conversations, and the conversations are, our employees love it. They feel that digital signage helps recognize the way that they feel, and it gives them a voice in the business to drive change. One of my favorite public speakers is a guy called Signage, who's incredibly influential in understanding human psychology, especially from an employee and employer perspective. And one of my favorite statements from him was that millennials and Gen Z employees want to feel like they're part of a movement, part of something bigger than them, so they can directly affect change for the better. And I think that ties very nicely in with what we're talking about. To circle that right background to digital signage and why that's important to us, the digital signage itself isn't going to solve your problem, but it comes as a pylon for communicating. Those important milestones and engagements with your employees helps deliver and drive that message faster and better. Okay, so before we go too far down this road, if by some inexplicable coincidence you've not heard of the term employee recognition before, we should take a few minutes just to define what that means. So it can be separated into stages. The first one is self-actualization. So the feeling to be needed or to feel accomplished and like you're reaching your full potential. So that's stage one. The second stage is esteem. So we all live within our own esteem, and neglecting that makes us feel, and our employees feel, empty or unsatisfied. Stage three is belongingness. Do we feel like we fit in at the company? Do we feel like an outlier, or do we feel a sense of a very commonly used term in business, which is family? And finally, stage four is safety. And safety gives us the freedom to dare to push the envelope and actually try new things and experiment with new ways of doing our role. Without safety, there's no progression. So to achieve real employee recognition, we need to put down offer codes and websites and quick fixes and really look at ticking each one of those boxes. If you do, you'll see increased staff retention and a better workplace morale. So with this, I'd like to pick apart one of the conversations I recently had with Josh Petro, a unified communications architect at Univesity Hospitals. You mentioned something there that I'd love to dig into a little bit more if I can. Just on, you mentioned that we're going to take it away from more of those kind of the processes you have to put in place and actually focusing more on feel-good stories. What's the reasoning behind that? Because I'm hearing similar things, and I'm kind of interested to see what the trend is that's building out there.
Yeah, I think in general, just you go to work and you're making the donuts, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. I actually know that reference. I saw that video the other day.
we go to work, I think, and we forget sometimes why we're there.
Sure.
And I think the clinicians, the healthcare industry around the world, are underappreciated a lot of times. You just kind of, if you end up in the hospital and they're taking care of you, everything from a hotel type stay to, the advanced medical care that you're getting. So there's a lot more that goes into it than just showing up for work every week. And so we want to make sure that our healthcare teams understand that they're appreciated and the impact that they have on their patients' lives,
Hmm.
just because it is profound. You're you're
100%.
you're you're touching a person when they're at their worst time of their life potentially. So we want to make sure that those stories get out there and that the employees understand that, we're all a team together, from everywhere from IT to environmental services, to the C-level folks that are leading the organization.
Okay, so there's some really good points well made by Josh there as we're having our call. Josh managed to highlight some key points that I hadn't considered before around QR codes that allowed them to inject a level of tracking into their projects, which really helps add context and a success metric. But most importantly, it's the approach of adding value to their employees' experience. Now, in Josh's case, we're talking about caregiving, something that typically comes with quite a lot of emotion naturally. But the core concepts and thinking should be brought to every industry, looking at our employees as individuals and not numbers. There's also this segment that I want to show you with Kathy from Flight Centre that I think will be really useful here as well.
Yeah, absolutely. People love seeing their names up there for their kind of length of service celebrations. We've had people come from other offices around Europe. We've got someone saying to me now, I want one of these, kind of set me up in Germany. Okay, great. Well, what about France? What about the Netherlands? So it's definitely going down really well. We have a lot of people that contact us that want kind of birthday shout outs. Because it's in an area that's kind of like our community hub in our office, we've also found that now our supplier teams are organizing events, bringing suppliers into the office and using it as a content reel that we now upload a suite of supplier specific content, and we just run that throughout their events as well, which again just makes their lives loads easier, because otherwise there'd probably be someone stood up there with a PowerPoint and a clicker.
Right. Yeah, I think that's the thing actually we hear a lot is people start off with this kind of concept of where they want to start. It ends up getting kind of sidetracked because they realize that these other tools available to make things much, much easier. And then you almost go full circle back around to people saying, oh, now that it's there and now that I can visualize it, because we're typically very visual people. And once we see something working and the value's been proven, you actually start to explore and expand on that in a little bit more detail.
It's about our people. It's about celebrating events and community, as opposed to, property are going to do a fire alarm on Wednesday. It's not really about that. It's much more about celebrating our people. And I think people are seeing that now when they come and visit us from other offices.
So let's refocus on workplace recognition. Now we understand what we're looking at, what we can do and engage with our employees and adds value to their day. So the low-hanging fruit is pretty simple. Recognizing events in a person's life like birthdays, company anniversaries and promotions. All of this is pretty easy to aggregate into one spreadsheet, and within your digital signage, you can allocate someone to schedule this content days, weeks, or months ahead of schedule. So this should alleviate some of that burden of spending too much time in the platform as you do this in chunks of time. Alternatively, you could look at integrating this data into tools like ScreenFeed Connect, which does a very good job of taking very dry, boring spreadsheet information and allowing you to build out exactly what you want aesthetically that's an on-brand design, while still maintaining one single data source that updates on screen automatically. So with something like this, you can deliver pretty fast value to your employee recognition. I should also take the time to point out something we do personally here at Signage Live. So every new employee has a headshot on file, which is added to our welcome wall. That displays all of the employees and their role, which with remote and hybrid workers, this helps make a more inclusive space because people can get to know what others do in the business, and a lot of people like to see their face up on a wall. Not everyone does, but a lot do. I would say around 90% of our company has opted in to have their face on a screen. So the struggle that we see from management and executives alike is that company culture is important to them. They see the benefit, the understanding and the return, but there's very little engagement with what they've tried so far. So this can often be things like prize incentives or awards or company trips, whatever it might be. All of those things are great for incentivizing employees and recognizing their efforts, and putting that prize, at the end of the day is having a satisfied employee and good workplace recognition. And that can actually increase employee satisfaction by 44%. It's actually another Gallup study there. But where the plan often falls down is the delivery. Rome wasn't built in a day, and someone has to champion the communications of this recognition. If you're at the size where you already have a dedicated employee recognition scheme or a team internally dedicated to this, then great. We can utilize what they're already doing and expand on delivering the message with digital signage. The lift here is fairly minimal. You can take these awards and accolades and repurpose them for on-screen content, which now, especially with AI content tools, including some big hitters like Canva, makes the process very seamless. So you can reap the benefits with very minimal additional time investment. If you're perhaps not such a large entity, or you're tasked with creating something from scratch, I recommend doing some research first. Engage with your employees, understand what makes them tick. Are you in a competitive environment where chasing for first place in sales is what drives your team? Or are you in a manufacturing plant where safety is the #1 priority? Leaning on these organically created focuses is what you should be doing. You're not going to get any buy-in if you incentivize your sales team to remember to put the toilet seat down. That might be a bit of an extreme end of the example, but you see my point. Remember that if you're distributing this communication across different departments, that your content needs to reflect the team that are around the screens. You can do this fairly easily. It's a bit like managing a few different TV channels, and each accolade is focused on engaging with the team that it resonates with. Once you know what incentivizes each team, you've now got to find the carrot, the recognition itself. Let's say that's from a picture and a well done from the exec team on the digital signage to congratulate them. The recognition itself could be enough. This could be where it stops and starts, and really that's enough. However, there could be additional incentives, financial or otherwise. To summarize what I'm saying here, where we see people go wrong is to expect that just awarding someone a one-time with a prize isn't going to build a good long-term recognition plan. Employee recognition needs to be woven into the everyday fabric of your employee experience and therefore become part of their daily mindset. Doing this will build better employee recognition. That'll incentivize teams to work optimally and boost your company morale as well. Actually, a side effect of this that you might see, speaking hypothetically at this point, is that the road to promotion will seem far more tangible. If you can arm your employees with a continuous set of proven accolades, those that overachieve and look to work above and beyond their station, they're more likely to be in a position to ask for a promotion earlier rather than later. It's amazing how some individuals who are the best of what they do are often overlooked because they don't believe they can progress. Or worse, upper management don't get to see the day-to-day input that they're putting in and they get overlooked. At the end of the day, if you could build a business around your employees, you'd want to make sure you're promoting the ones that excel in their role, not just the ones that shout the loudest. I can take this point a step further, actually, from just the theoretical to my own experience. About 5 years ago, when I was managing a team of customer support people at a medical company, I was tasked with building out NPS structure for the company. So for those that aren't aware of NPS, it stands for Net Promoter Score. If you've ever seen an icon with a smiley face or stars whilst traveling or using a SaaS platform, this is what that's based on. The concept with NPS is that those that are saying that you're a 9 out of 10 out of 10 business, they're more likely to stay with you for the long term, and they're more likely to recommend you. Those that are between 6 and 8 are satisfied but neutral, and anything below that could actually speak negatively about your company. So the challenge I had when we were looking at this is we had no sales cycle in the business. We worked through the NHS, and therefore items were ordered when they were deemed medically required, and because of this, initially, NPS didn't seem to make a huge amount of sense to me. However, when we started researching it, we started to uncover where each department could have their own success measured, and we could give them their recognition. I'll break these down for you because there might be some good ideas in there for you. So our manufacturing team had delivery depots that received goods for our services. Staff that spent their days building and shipping these products would be given accolades if the companies that received the product was well built and in a timely manner with helpful staff. From this, we saw our product errors drop. We saw the general mood of those that we had to call on a regular basis improve and become far more friendly rather than kind of just looked at as a resource. Our support team had NPS feedback attached to each of their emails that were sent out. Our customers, the clinicians, actually had a chance to tell us where we were succeeding and where we were failing, and we could improve our support based on their feedback and see where our rising stars in the department were. We actually built workflow processes from their advice to improve the overall service given. Finally, our management team were given an anonymous NPS page. Even the staff could feedback on a quarterly basis on their feelings about the company and the management, and it made people accountable and changed the way we worked actually quite dramatically. What's more, you can take all of this stored data and push it automatically to a screen. So tools like secure dashboards allows you to display this data securely within the company, basically meaning that your workload is nothing for distributing this communication. So in summary, if you're going to use digital signage for workplace recognition, here's how to do it. Step 1, understand what incentivizes each department. 2, understand how to measure the success for each department. Number 3 is to start measuring that success and giving regular incentives to those employees that hit the mark. Number 4, share, and reshare that recognition over and over again through digital signage and other platforms to make sure that everyone in the company understands that it's not a flash in the pan exercise and this is the way that the company works now. Number 5 is keep going and invest in people to manage the scheme. If you do these steps, you will see better employee recognition that will lead to better employee retention. You will see improvements in the overall quality and mind frame, regardless of what department we're talking about. You will see a more incentivized company that revels in everyone else's individual success and is also challenged to meet the same bar that has been set. And you'll receive a better route to finding best employees for promotion. And finally, one more thing, just make sure you don't incentivize just some of the company. It is the fastest way to creating rifts between departments. Don't yo-yo back and forth on the way that you deliver the messaging. Utilize the signage and other platforms to build better engagement. Automate this if you're light on resource and want something to turn up automatically. And don't use the wrong metrics for the wrong people. So that pretty much covers what I have to say today about workplace recognition, but we'll almost certainly come back to this as we interview some of the specialists in the area. I wanted to make this platform that helps build a community of people helping each other in business. So I'm going to ask you to do one thing for me if you've listened all this way. Whatever platform you're currently on, leave a comment below with one of the ways that you feel you have been recognized by a company in the past. I think this will go a long way in helping each other overcome this challenge. Secondly, if you like this, please follow our LinkedIn page at Signage Live. You'll see much more from us around this and many more other topics. If you want to follow me, then I'm Tim Baker on LinkedIn too. And finally, making this content is no small undertaking, but I really feel that this can add some value to your research in digital signage. So if you do want to speak to us, you can head over to signagelive.com. There will be a question in that contact form that asks how you've heard about Signage Live. Please tell us if you've listened to a podcast or watched a YouTube video. It gives us the ammunition to go and create more content like this to help people understand the value of digital signage and how to make it work for you and your company. Thank you very much again. I've been Tim Baker, and I will see you on the next one.